Hello and welcome to Glitch Cube, we're a gaming podcast, and each week we take a deeper look into the art of video games. I'm Christian.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome back, you guys. Thank you for joining us for another fun conversation. We have a fun topic for you guys, one that we've kind of touched on a little bit with some of the games that we really focus on, but that is the concept of looping or, repeating time. Think Groundhog Day, right? Like Groundhog Day is a classic example of the looping mechanic where you just repeat the same day over and over again. And that idea is not, just stuck to gaming or whatnot. It's been expressed over every kind of media, from books to movies to everything like that. So it's really interesting. And when it's used in the right way, it can make a very compelling story. And I do have some interesting ideas on how that could actually help with game design to lower the workload and things like that. But we can touch on that stuff a little bit later on in the episode. But first, I want to talk about a little bit about the genre that kind of takes the idea of looping and just runs with it, and that's roguelikes. So what is your just general experience? I know that we talk about them a lot on this channel, but maybe for those who are just jumping in on this episode, give a little bit of your experience with roguelikes and which ones kind of stand out to you in this whole idea of looping and repeating life.
I could definitely say they've been a part of my life for a huge portion of it. Ever since like the kind of the indie scene blew up with it, I've just always, it's like I always have to check one out, or at least every year when a new one comes out. And the thing that I always love about
500 that come out that year.
Yeah, exactly. The looping in roguelikes, it's the one thing that I like truly love about it. I never really thought about games in general being a loop in itself, but with roguelikes, it's like it feels like an arcade game, but it feels more in depth. And something I love about the loops in them is that they're pretty much almost always random. I don't think you really see any that are always like the same kind of maps, same kind of layouts, nothing like that. It's always random. And I love it because your run is always going to be different. For the most part, like you can kind of probably get the same kind of build of items if you look out, but it's always something new, exciting, and the only way I get sick of them is if I play too many like runs and then it just ends up kind of all feeling the same.
Right.
But there's when they started including like progression in them, that's when I really liked it, because I felt like the constant deaths and the looping, it provided a reason to keep going. Like, for me, the first big roguelike that I got really into is Binding of Isaac. And in that, there's not really a progression system. You can unlock new characters and new items through your runs, but you're not really progressing stuff unless you're like going further and further down the dungeon. And I thought that was cool, but at the same time, I'm like, I want to see something like carry over each game. And then we started seeing, Rogue Gallery or Rogue Legacy and, Hades, all of these newer ones they have where each run you can carry something over. And for me, like, that's what I really like, because keep running this endless hamster wheel of going without anything to really take with you. Yeah, it's kind of fun starting fresh every time, but it provides something new. And I feel like this looping system is something that we're seeing being innovative in different ways, from like indie titles to like AAA titles, and it's fascinating, because for the longest time, I really thought it was just a roguelike trait, I guess you could say. And it's cool seeing and discovering more games actually have a system like that. They're just not about dying and continuing. It's more about a story.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the idea of like looping and repeating almost felt exclusive, right, to roguelikes, which was it's really interesting to see some of these more bigger like AAA games kind of coming out. One of them that we'll be talking about a little bit later, like Deathloop, that's a fantastic game that uses the looping mechanic in a very interesting way and makes it innovative and shows the scale that it can actually go on. But like looping isn't something new to gaming, right? Like every single game does it, and it just whenever we add it to the theme and make it makes it more interesting, right? And you mentioned too, like the idea of being able to take items with you onto your next run, it does change things up a little bit. You can even go through the same levels over again, but with these new abilities or new things unlocked, it does change up the gameplay and makes it fresh and exciting each time you go through it, which is really innovative and ingenious, honestly. And it does simplify the amount of time needed to actually develop a game, I would say, because a lot of these games, whenever they're looping or whatever, they have maybe one main city or a few, main areas that you're constantly running back to. Like same thing with Metroidvanias, right? You have a very big stage, but it's just one. And you can spend a lot of time developing and filling up that world to make it feel much more interesting. And it's the kind of the reverse effect of what we get with open world games, right? Like with an open world game, you have a huge, massive world and you have a lot of pockets of emptiness. But whenever you have games that end up looping on themselves, it's easier to fill those worlds and make them feel much more interesting and just more lively, right? And I think that's what I've become more and more drawn to with this like looping thing. And with like now seeing how they're able to expand even just storytelling with loops is really, really cool. Like some roguelike games out there, like even Star Renegades, right? Like that game's great. And it's a really fun roguelike game where if you end up losing or if your entire party dies, well, guess what? You go into a new dimension and you start over. But what changed it up and makes it more, I guess, like innovative or like attention grabbing is the fact that like you keep unlocking new characters and your characters get to know each other better using a friendship, mechanic. And it just unlocks a little bit more lore behind each one of those characters and unlocks more to the story. So it doesn't feel like you're repeating anything. It feels like you're constantly learning something new. And I think that's great that they're able to spend more time building up that kind of aspect within a game rather than just keep building new and new, more and more environments and filling them with almost nothing, right? And it is kind of a shame that, open world games are great, right? Like they allow you to explore freely, all that stuff, and the environments are usually gorgeous to look at, but it's just sometimes it's just void of content and it just doesn't live up to the aesthetic that they're presenting, right? So
it's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough balance to get there. But one of the games that I wanted to talk about that I feel, oh boy, it's kind of a hard one to talk about, honestly. And it really has like skewed reactions whenever you mention it, and it's one that really took the idea of looping and expanded on it and tried to tell a story. It feels like they were really trying to change the media and expand it to be more like movie-ish, right? Like really be able to show off the storytelling aspect of gaming itself. And that game is 12 minutes. Now, some people really hate this game and some people really like this game. It's very, very polar. Like it's all over the place with the way people feel about it. And I'm kind of leaning towards the side of this isn't really a game for me. But I do really like the fact that they were able to push this art form of gaming and just kind of tell a different kind of story in a new, interesting way, and using the idea of a looping 12 minutes. Well, actually, it's a looping 10 minutes. And then once you get later on to the game, you find out the last 2 minutes. But it is interesting how they do it, but God, that story and what you're actually like unfolding is pretty rough in my opinion. But what's your, like, from what you've heard of 12 minutes, what's your take on it? And how do you think it's helped expand this idea of being able to kind of simplify the world, right? To narrow the scope a little bit, but still tell a very enriching story?
I think the idea behind it is really interesting, and I think it could be implemented well in a lot of other kind of like in storytelling in general. I haven't played it. I've watched videos and I've seen a couple people that I like trust with their reviews look at it, and I agree with you. To me, it doesn't seem like really a game for me per se, just because the story just seems really odd. And I mean, I love odd things and weird things and messed up stories, but it's just like, to me, it's not what I thought it was going to be. I remember seeing the trailers for it and it seemed like, oh my God, this is going to be like a blockbuster, you know, like movie/game kind of thing that a lot of times these games get hyped up to be.
Yeah, same. I mean, Willem Dafoe is a voice actor, so like you automatically think, holy crap, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, honestly, that was the reason why I wanted to play it, because I was like, oh, I like Dafoe. You know, he's always a very interesting character in everything he's in. And after seeing it a little bit, and I did play maybe like 10 minutes of it on Game Pass just to see what I thought of it, but I ended up just watching and reading about it, and it's just, yeah, I'd rather see that mechanic in a different setting. You know, the whole, maybe it's just the way the game is played and that top-down kind of look. It's just, to me, I can't get immersed in something. I don't know. It's weird to describe, but maybe it's just because my hype for that was kind of shattered, because I thought it was going to be really interesting, really take on the medium.
I think it's the actual story itself that really, like, in the way that they portrayed a lot of the things, it's hyper violent, like, which is, I mean, normal for most games, right? You look at like Doom or any first person shooter and they are hyper violent. But there's something different about like the way that this game portrays the violence that makes it feel like kind of wrong. It's the wrong media for it, right? Like if this was a movie, then it would probably be a really interesting, amazing movie, right? Like a little Sundance film kind of thing. But as a game, I think the problem is that whenever you're playing a game, you automatically impose yourself onto the main character, right? And you want to impose some of your own characteristics on them, but as the story unfolds, there's gonna be a little bit of spoilers here, but as the story unfolds, you end up realizing that you don't want to be this person, right? And so it kind of made you not want to play the game anymore, because why would I want to continue on a story with someone that I have no interest in playing as, right? Like the first 10 minutes unrolls where like you go home, you hang out with your wife, you have dinner with her, she announces that she's pregnant, but then someone comes at the door and he's called the policeman, but he doesn't look like a policeman. He's in a suit and everything. And then he basically ends up abducting you guys and killing both of you in the long run, right? So you have the looping 10 minutes to try and figure out what's going on, because there's an underlying mystery there. But what you end up unfolding is not the greatest of stories, I would say. You end up realizing that you're your wife's brother and you actually killed your guys' father. And it just kind of spirals into this really awkward situation of incest and murder. And it's not really a story that I wanted to continue to learn about playing as the main character. Now, watching like reviews of it or watching a breakdown of the story, it made it different, right? Because I was able to take myself out of the whole thing, and it kept it interesting. So that's why I think like this one as a movie would be really good. But I do have to applaud it for, expanding on the media itself and trying out a different kind of story, one that we really haven't seen in games. So maybe we'll be able to see a little bit more of those kind of, I guess, like more indie filmy kind of stories within games, because it can be done. It showed that it can be done. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what comes from this. Like, what does this game inspire? But it just didn't really do it for me.
Sometimes I feel like there's games out there that would be better as a movie, and then vice versa. Like sometimes there's movies, and I'm like, man, it'd be really cool if this was a game, because then they can expand it. I feel like for me, that's how I feel about that game. Like normally I'm like, yeah, make everything a game. But when it's stories like that, it just seems like it'd be better as a movie, because it would be maybe portrayed a little bit better. maybe you wouldn't impose yourself as the main character, like
Mhm.
it's interesting, I know we're definitely heading towards that route where we're trying to make games like, I mean, they already are seen as almost like movies, it's reached that point of like acclaim, but sometimes it's like you just, I don't know, it just doesn't hit the right chord, I guess you could say.
Yeah, agreed. So there are some games out there also that play on the looping mechanic, and there's a couple small ones that I've been checking out lately, kind of in preparation for this episode, but ones that have just been on my radar for a while, and they're much more lighthearted in the way that they tell their stories, but they use the looping mechanic in a really fun way. And those two games that I kind of want to discuss right now are Loop Hero and Minute. I think those two games are really great. They're small titles, but the way that they do looping or use it as their theme makes for a very interesting gameplay. Like, for instance, with Minute, you have 1 minute to play, right? And in that 1 minute, you need to accomplish as many things as you possibly can. Throughout the game, you will be able to kind of start new, like, starting points from whenever your minute does begin. But learning the little things like, oh, this person wants this, or I need to get this key from here, but at this certain time, or, those little things to try and get to the ending boss battle is really interesting because of how quickly things loop back on themselves. And there's little save points, so like you can save certain items and stuff like that to kind of help you out. But just exploring that world and figuring those things out is really fun. And pairing that with like the adorable art style, it just made for a really enjoyable experience. I really enjoyed my time with Minute, and I did play for more than a minute. So, so I'd say that's probably.
Is it like where, because obviously the game doesn't last a minute. Is it where when you reach a checkpoint, then that's where the minute would start over if you run out of time?
So
or
there's little there's RVs basically, or little camper homes, and you can kind of create that as your save point, right? And I think there might be like 3 within the game or something like that. So like that's basically where you would start, is in a camper. So but like if you're just running around the map, like after your time's up, you just die and respawn. Like you just go back to where you started and you've lost all your progress, unless there are certain items that you can save at the house, at your safe house. But unless you get them there, then you don't get to keep them. So you kind of have to like learn these little things, like just go out there and explore for a few rounds. And then you can find things like, okay, if I take this, then I'll be able to do this. So it makes it like a really expansive puzzle that you kind of have to find the pieces for. It doesn't have the pieces laid out for you, which I found really cool. Yeah, fun little title. And then the other one I would like to talk about, because you've played it too, and I just started playing this one, but I'm kind of falling in love with it because it's such a great little small title, but it's something that you can kind of have in the background, which is nice. But Loop Hero is really fun, and you're the one who actually got me to want to play it, and I'm really happy for that because Loop Hero is really cool. Like you end up going into a procedurally generated area, and it's always in a circle. There's nothing populated on the map, but as you defeat the enemies that are there, like the little slimes, they start giving you cards and stuff like that. And with those cards, you can populate your loop with more enemies, with treasures, with quests, with different things, and also like populate the world around the loop with like mountain passes and meadows. And each one of those tiles gives you a different like a buff to your stats, right? So like meadows and things like that will give you health boosts and attack boosts and all that stuff. So it makes the loops a little bit easier. So like the whole time you're just letting your guy go across this loop, right? And you make it as hard as you want to, and you can end the loop basically whenever you want. So, but whenever you go back to your camp, you're rebuilding a camp, and there's like I don't really know the full story of it, but there's like an apocalyptic event, right? Where everything just disappears and everyone forgot what was going on. So you're trying to figure that out. And I haven't reached the end game, and I actually haven't like looked up any spoilers or anything like that because I'm curious about this one. I want to figure out myself. But so far, my time with Loop Hero has been really, really fun. Just trying to kind of letting it like do its thing, right? It's weird. It's an active idle game, which is kind of a weird middle ground.
Yeah.
So, and I know that kind of like is really counterintuitive to one another. And I'm sure that kind of turns people off a little bit to the idea of the game, because when you play an idle game, you don't want to be actively having to look at the screen and move things around. But when you're playing an active game, you want a little bit more say in what's going on, right? So it's kind of, it's its own little genre. It's like a nice little in between, and it's just kind of a peaceful experience, I would say, despite being constantly attacked by monsters.
I really found that game. Well, I guess I could say I really found it like innovative in a sense, because it felt so different. With every year we always get the same kind of games come out, and I mean, yeah, this is another kind of like roguelike thing where it's just random runs, but the way of building your little map for that run with cards, I thought it was so different and interesting. And when I first started, I was like, oh, this is whatever. Like I thought it was cute, but I couldn't really get into it because I was starting to get bored.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I really started filling out the map and playing with different like buffs and debuffs and having different monsters spawn when probably wasn't the best area for them,
it dropping really made the vampire mansions into one area. Done that.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, it made me really want to see more of it. I've only got a couple hours in it, but I really liked what I played. I want to see what happens when the camp is built up more, and I want to see how they deal with like, the bosses and stuff later on. Because I mean, I liked what I played. I think it's a really interesting game that I feel like people talked about it, but I feel like it was kind of glanced over compared to a lot of other indie games that came out this year. It's definitely like that silent, I guess you could say it's a hidden gem.
Yeah,
because
I would say so.
Not many people really spoke about it, and it's a bummer because I mean the game's really cool.
I think the problem with it was the marketing of it, right? Like this game, I still have a hard time trying to pinpoint exactly what kind of genre it is, right? Because like you can't say it's an idle game because you have to be actively working on it. You can't say it's a
card game.
You can't really fully say it's a card game because it's also a simulation game, right? And I wouldn't really call it a roguelike, even though it does repeat, but it's using the looping and the repeating as an interesting theme to it. So I don't really know how to fully explain this game. And I think that's the problem with it, is that it kind of transcended multiple genres. So it ended up becoming overlooked that way, right? Because it confused people. It's kind of hard to catch anyone in a single paragraph, or like even if you're looking across Steam or whatever it may be, it needs to have a genre attached, right? So like, how do you actually pinpoint what genre to tag this game with when it's kind of multiple things at the same time, And I think I'm actually really curious to see if other games come out like this, where it's a little bit extra. Like, I guess you can boil it down to just like a active simulation game, right? Like it's a walking sim, But even that feels like it doesn't do it full justice, So I'm curious to see if there's going to be like a new genre made from this kind of game. We have Metrovanias because Metroid was such a huge hit and it was so interesting and different, and now we mimic it that like crazy. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some indie games out there who kind of mimic this, and then we'll have, like Loopvanias or whatever, right? Or loop likes, that could be really cool in the future to see that, because
like a different setting or a different, like, it's the same game mechanic, but like thrown in a different way. Like I could see this being done in like different settings and some changes here and there. It's definitely interesting. Like I love when you find a game that blends different genres together like that. Sometimes it's a little too much. Like I have seen some games where they throw a lot of different ideas and mechanics out there, and it's kind of, it doesn't work. But with Loop Hero, I felt like it does work. It's just, it's not a game for everybody. I think that's still like how I look at it. Like it's a fun game, but I know a lot of people out there are either going to be bored of it or overwhelmed by it. And the other people, they're going to like it because it is really different.
Yeah, it's incredibly different. talking about a game that did work and worked phenomenally using the loop mechanic, we got to talk about Deathloop. Deathloop is fantastic. This title is amazing. And I gotta say, like, I don't have a PS5 and I wasn't able to actually like hands-on play it, but watching the game is just as enjoyable in my opinion. There's so much going on. There's so much lore, so many things to just kind of watch things get unfolded in front of you. And this game did a really great job. I mean, even the voice acting is amazing in this game. They did so good with it. Like even like the screams of pain felt like real and animated. It wasn't just like a, like Link. Usually you have like maybe one or two different yells, and he like the voice actor who did Cole did phenomenal with it. But you played Deathloop a little bit more, so maybe you can give the listeners a little bit more on what Deathloop is exactly if they don't know.
Yeah, I think I have like over 15 hours in. I know I definitely played it for a few days in a row, like nonstop, because I was really intrigued by it. It's interesting because I had no interest in this game at all when I first saw the trailers, just because it felt like the trailers were thrown everywhere, like on TV, everything. I'm like, God, this game is pissing me off because it's like every goddamn YouTube ad, like it. I marketed the hell out of it. Yeah. And a lot of people that I would talk to were like, oh, this game's going to be whatever. And then it came out and people really, really liked it. And I was like, oh, I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try when I get a chance. And I found it on sale for like $20 pretty much. And I was like, okay, I'll buy it.
That's a steal for this game.
Yeah, it honestly, it really is. Like I'm glad I picked it up. It's cool. Like, for people who don't know, basically you get stuck on this island and you don't remember anything. I mean, it comes out later on why you're there and who you are, but it's like this island controlled by, I think, 8 people. I don't think it's 7. I think it's 8.
Yeah, there's 8 visionaries, including yourself and Juliana, I think, right?
Yeah. And you have one day to kill all these visionaries, and if you don't, it loops back and starts over on that day.
It's the first day, right?
And it's cool. Like it really does a different way of doing looping. Like in the beginning, obviously your first real loop, you're not going to be able to kill all of them because you need to get the information, the lore, and you have a couple different areas you can explore, right? It's not open. It's not a huge open world. It's, different times of the day you're going to have different things going on, right? In the morning, you could be listening to one of the visionaries give a sermon, and then in the nighttime, that same map has a totally different thing going on. You have like a bunch of that visionary's minions trying to fish treasure out of a sunken airplane. It's interesting what they do, and it's cool how, during the day, there's no traps, right? It's kind of an easy way to get into the building. But no, if you come during the nighttime, there's like booby traps everywhere, and it's a totally like, just like a challenges everywhere. Yeah. And I've been able to kill a few of them, just not on the same like run. I think the most I've been able to do at this point is maybe I did 3. I know I'm on the end of this one loop and I'm about to get 4. But the thing I like about this game too is that there is some kind of progression about it. You collect this material, right? It comes from either items on the ground or if you kill a visionary.
Infurium.
And Infurium, yeah. And you can use this material to save weapons or accessories or even your abilities, right? So you can keep it on each loop or each run. And if you die, I think you can die twice in a map, and then it would go back to like a different time of the day, right? But it won't really fully mess up your run. You have to really like not do anything for the whole day to lose everything. But with the abilities that you get, when you kill a visionary, you get a special slab, which is their ability. And not all the visionaries have one, but when each time you kill that same visionary on different loops, you can power up your ability. And I really like that idea because some of them are really cool. I mean, this game really does feel like Dishonored, but with a time loop. I mean, you can tell it's made by the same people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really enjoyed about this game is that I was playing this with a buddy, and he would play as Juliana, right? Because in this game, you can play solo, or you can have Juliana, which is like your rival, kind of the person that keeps hunting you down, play. So it's almost like a PvP kind of thing. And like while you're trying to kill a visionary, they're trying to kill you. But we did it differently. We work together. And obviously there's friendly fire. So we try not to shoot each other. But like we can go and kill visionaries together and kind of work together as a team.
That's cool. I didn't think about using that system like that. That's smart.
And it makes it really... it makes it easy, obviously. It makes it really easy because like the Juliana, they won't really get targeted unless they're like really shooting a bunch of people. So they can go in there and kind of like clear areas out for you. And then usually what I'll do is, because when you kill Juliana, you get her ability. So it's, for me, her ability, I think it's like the shift or the blinking technique.
Shift.
It's already maxed out. And it's just kind of fun. Like, cause I didn't really think like, oh, I could play this cooperatively, like in that way. I thought it was only PvP.
Yeah.
And it makes it a really fun and different co-op experience because you are finding different things in each run, each loop. You know, you are trying to solve this mystery and trying to get everybody in one area. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I can see why some people say it's their favorite game of the year because it is so different. I mean, is it my favorite game of the year? No, but I think it's a really original idea, and I had a lot of fun with it. Like, I definitely want to go through and try to beat it because I know I'm like not that far from it. But if anybody's out there on the fence, if you can get it for, I don't know, cheaper than retail price, I say it's worth a pickup.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fun time. Even if you're not trying to play seriously and you're just goofing around, like there's a lot to do in those little maps and different times of the day, and it's just fun to goof around.
Yeah. I think this game is a perfect example of how the looping game or looping mechanic can be used to help tell a very, very enthralling story. And it also really showcases the idea of how it can make the environments feel much more populated, right? Like, there's only 4 environments throughout this entire game, and you get to run into them in different ways by either checking them out in the morning, the afternoon, or the night. And like you mentioned, depending on what time of day, there's different things going on, right? So like a visionary could be in one area in the morning, and then at night they're in a completely different area. And actually your actions throughout the day might change where they're going to end up in certain periods of time, which is really, really cool. What I found the most interesting thing is that there's only 2 characters that actually remember that they're in a loop. Everyone else thinks that this is the first day. And as the story kind of unfolds, you might realize that, they actually did know that this was a loop and now they forgot again. Like, it makes it kind of interesting. So trying to unfold that. So you have your little like detective plot in the background, trying to figure out exactly what's going on here. But Colt, the main character, is trying to break the loop. So what I really like about this game when it comes to the whole idea of looping mechanics and, repeating stuff is that you have a main character that's conscious of this loop. So it makes it easier for you to kind of wrap your brain around that and like really impose yourself onto the character, opposed to, like imposing yourself on the character in like 12 minutes that we spoke about earlier. But like being able to really put yourself into this idea of like, I need to do this so that I can break the loop and get out of this. Like it really sets up a clear end goal, right? From the very beginning. And they keep layering on more and more stuff. And there's more things to find out that might not even help you break the loop, but it's just interesting lore to learn. And it just teaches you a little bit more about the characters that you're playing. And like finding out Colt's backstory and all that is just really fun to do. I don't know. There's a lot to this game to really enjoy, and I get why it was nominated as one of the games of the year, right? Like it makes sense because this game is so well polished. But I really think that this really showcases what a AAA studio can do whenever they kind of constrain themselves a little bit. Right? Whenever they limit the amount of resources that they're putting out there and just really focus in on a couple small areas and really populate them out with as much interesting things as they can. Like one of the areas is literally just a giant art studio for one of the visionaries. And every single street is populated with like a different kind of like exhibition or, installment, which is really, really cool. And like they all have like weird things going on and just it's basically just eye candy. Like it's just really, really fun to just walk around the whole city and explore. Like if you like Dishonored, then you already know that they're great at movement, at action, at fighting. Like they know how to make that work. So there is no area that's off limits to you. And just unlocking all those things and just, I don't know, it's just a really great game. Then I really enjoyed the way that they're able to use the looping mechanic in a much more interesting way. Like we have games that we're trying, like AAA games that we're trying to use looping, but using it more like roguelites, like Returnal, for instance. It's like it's a great game, but they focused more on the idea of it being a roguelike instead of using the looping more as a storytelling device. And I think that's where Returnal kind of lost it a little bit because the runs are incredibly long and very like it's really harsh to lose everything after playing for like 4 hours. But with Deathloop, being conscious and being aware of things looping constantly, and you're going to have to repeat the same things over and over again, they alleviated some of the stressors of losing everything and losing all your progress by, even if you don't get to save some of your guns or you lose some of your equipment, you still carry over knowledge, lore, and things like that, which still is very rewarding. So it's a very clever way of handling some of the stressors that can come from looping like that. And that's how I think Deathloop handled it a little bit better than, let's say, Returnal, for instance, when it comes to like AAA studios trying to tackle this kind of storytelling device. So. All right. So we kind of want to go back a little bit old school here for a second, because while a lot of new games, especially it feels like in the last couple of years, a lot of the newer games have been using looping more and more and more, right? We've been seeing a lot of roguelikes. We've been seeing a lot of games who want to expand on this idea of looping within their games. But there's one title that did it first or earlier and did it pretty amazingly, right? And I think this is a title that everyone is going to remember. I think it's going to be a no-brainer, honestly, right? Like we all know this title, we know this game. But that's, of course, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. And actually, a lot of people did not like Majora's Mask when it first came out, but it was able to use looping and all that in a fantastic way and be able to tell a really enriching, very deep, it was a very dark story for Zelda, right? Like this is probably the first time we saw like a really sad story when it came to this franchise. So it's really interesting. But for those of you who don't know, the game takes place across 3 days. So you have 3 days to figure out how to save the city because a giant moon, or the moon is falling on it, and it's going to be a big catastrophic event, right? So you have 3 days to figure out how to stop that. And the main antagonist is, oh God, what's his name? Skullboy, right? What's his name?
Yeah,
Skullboy, and he's wearing Majora's Mask, which is just a mask that is basically a big demonic presence. But what makes it really interesting is that like you as you're playing through the game, it's kind of similar to what Deathloop does, where you are learning little bits here and there. You're learning different events that are going to be going on at different points in time, and you're able to interact with those things, but you don't have to. You can just go to the end if you really want to, but you're going to be missing out on some abilities, stuff like that, right? And you actually learn like how to be a hero, which is really weird. Like you're able to interact with people's lives and benefit them in a much better way as you're conversating with people and learning that how how different people deal with dread, because everyone knows that this event is happening and everyone has like their own little existential crises going on. And you, as the hero of time, your Link, it's your job now to help these people deal with that. Even if it does feel like you're kind of shying away from the main goal, it all kind of benefits everything in the end. So that's what I really enjoyed about Majora's Mask, is that it's a tale of dread and depression and how to actually deal with it in a positive way. And yeah, I don't know. I really like that. And I know that a lot of people didn't enjoy it at first, but now it's, seen as one of the masterpieces, of course. Always later, we always think that, right? Ahead of its time, that same trope that I'm so tired of hearing about. But it really was ahead of its time. It was using a well-known franchise and using it to tell a story in a much different way. And it was fantastic. I don't know. What's your take on it? Talking too much about it.
I was one of the people on the side that loved it. When I first played it, I remember picking it up brand new, and at first the time limit bothered me. I am a person that hates time limits in games. I like being able to take my time and really explore and see the world, right? So even with the song that slows down time, I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, I want to see everything. I don't want to feel rushed. I got used to it. And even though I was young when I played it, I could understand the dread that the characters all showed in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it made it very easy to understand what was going on without having to be really, I don't know the word, like,
without it being like beat over the head with you, right? Like,
yeah, all these characters that you run around like in Termina, and it's interesting, like all those masks that you're able to earn by helping people, like the lover's mask, or even the hand in the toilet,
mm-hmm.
trying to get the toilet paper. Like, it's, there's so much life in that game that for me, I loved it more than Ocarina of Time. Like, Ocarina of Time was a cool game, don't get me wrong. I liked it. But Majora's Mask had this different feel to it. Like, it
had a much more lively environment.
It had a lively environment for being such a dark setting. Mm-hmm. And seeing how the map, or I guess the setting, really changes like the further you get in the game. On the third day, like the whole world looks like it's going to blow up, obviously because of the moon, but it's so fascinating, that the whole time schedule of different characters and different things throughout the different days. It was like, whoa, like this is cool. It felt like a real living world. And back then you didn't really see games that had that kind of living world thing. Like, I feel like the next game that really did that well was maybe Shenmue, with people's like having schedules and, days of the month and all that kind of stuff. But this game made it simpler in a way to understand it, but still had that hard mechanic. I understand why people would be pissed off with the idea of having to like have a time limit, but I mean, it's doable. I was able to beat the game. I mean, it's not hard once you understand what you have to do.
Yeah. It's just another puzzle in a Zelda game, right? Like, it's just a different type of puzzle that people now have to interact with. So
yeah, and I liked it because it felt shorter than Ocarina of Time, even though I hear a lot of people say it's kind of around the same time. But I don't know, I just really love that world a lot. Like, I thought that world map was really cool. Like, the graveyard, the swamp, even the mountain. Like, I hated the mountain. Actually, no, I hated the water map. Like,
yeah.
I thought I hated the water shrine more in Ocarina of Time, but when I played that stupid level where you had to swim in that circle area and try to get the different pipes, oh my god, I think that literally is one of the worst water levels in a game. Like, it's just so annoying. But I don't know, being able to take on these different personas with your mask, being, different beings, it was so cool. And the looping part of it, by either speeding up time or slowing time, it really made it interesting, and it made you want to explore the world on all those different days just to see what was different. I mean, the dialogue would change with the characters every day. You would see them get more paranoid. Like, the first day, they're like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then the second day, they're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like, the dread starts kicking in. And then the third day, it's like, people either freaking out or they've just given up. They know they're going to die. And it's really interesting how dark that game was compared to other Nintendo titles at the time.
Or even just other Zelda titles, you know?
Oh, yeah. And it's up there. Like, it's probably my second favorite Zelda game. And I felt like that mechanic, I don't really feel like any other game has really done that kind of time limit, or at least that well, you know, where, you know, you have your 3 days. Like, I know there's other games out there where they give you a day and stuff like that, but to me, and this is not nostalgia speaking, because I have replayed this game, it's one of the few games with a loop like that I think I enjoy the most. And it does have its difficulties. I can see why people dislike it, but it really is timeless. Like, it really did something different, and it worked. You know, maybe not at the time, but it set out what it was going to do, and they made it really interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm actually kind of curious to see what people would say. And maybe, you know, listeners out there, maybe you can hit us up on social medias and let us know what you think. But which version or what Zelda do you think stands out more as far as like a fully lived in world, or, you know, more enriching experience, Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time? Because, I mean, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, the idea of open world game versus a looping game, like, they're able to put much more time and effort into the NPC interactions and make worlds feel more lived in because they're focusing on something such small scale. But with, you know, games like Ocarina of Time, there's that huge open world area that kind of it slows things down, I would say, just because it's used for just traveling, right? And it does take a little while to get across the map. So it feels a little empty at times, right? Like, there's little things you can go to. It's a little sporadic here and there, but it just shows how empty an open world can feel when compared to something on a much narrower scope. And I think this is a great like example or a great comparison of the same, you know, it's the same games. It's Zelda. It's, you know, it's what we're familiar with, but tackled in very different ways. And I have to say that, you know, Majora's Mask with their the NPC interactions are much more memorable. They're much more iconic because they were able to spend that much more time building up that world and making it what it was and making it feel lived in and really making you feel for those NPC characters. And I think that's a great thing about looping. Like, the looping mechanic isn't going to go away. Looping is going to be internal in all games forever, whether it is centralized in the theme or not, no matter what, whether it's a Mario game, a first-person shooter, or an RPG, we loop in games. When you die, you start over, right? Whenever you complete a mission, you go back to the main hub and you do a different mission. Like, the idea of looping is going to be a constant. But what you can do with it and how you integrate it into the theme of your game and how you evolve on it and expand on the idea is what makes it interesting. And it can really lead to some very fun and creative ways to, you know, boost your games and just really just tell a story in a different way and expand on this media in a very interesting, innovative ways. You know, like, Deathloop did something amazing. It took that idea and it ran with it, and it showed what a AAA studio could do with this idea and just make something very interesting and just amazing and just works, right? And it's fun. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see what comes around in the future. Just see who else is going to, you know, pick up that torch and try and do the next amazing looping game with it centralized as their theme, right?
I think, real quick, I feel like the latest game to really do it well, other than Deathloop, probably would be Outer Wilds. But as someone who's only watched it, and I haven't had time to actually sit down and play a lot of it, I can't put like a whole hands-on experience with it, but having 22 days to figure out what's happening with the world before it loops back, I think that's so interesting. And I'm like, if there's one game that I've been really wanting, like I need to play, or I keep telling myself it's that game, just because I know like people love it when they talk about it. And I really love the idea because I want something like Majora's Mask.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's probably the closest I'm going to get to something modern like it.
Yeah.
But if anybody out there listening has anything good to say about it, let me know.
Yeah.
I need that person to push me to like finally play it.
Same. And, that's the reason why we didn't include it into this episode, because it would be a perfect one for this topic, right? It's just me and Chris don't have a lot of experience with it. We didn't want to do it. We wanted to do these games justice, right? That's kind of what we don't want to just spew a bunch of things that we think about and speculate when we don't have enough information on it. But if there's any other games out there that have the looping mechanic or do something interesting and innovative that way using it, let us know. We would love to play them. I actually really enjoy, I'm enjoying them more and more now, this whole idea, and I just want to explore this area much more in games. So if you have any out there, let us know. Hit us up on the socials. We'd love to check them out, and maybe they'll end up on the next episode, and you'll definitely get a shout out for it too. So why not, right? That'll be fun. But I think with that, that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you so much for listening in, and join us next week as we tackle another topic in the art of games. All right. Bye.
Bye.